So a few weeks ago I reviewed a fragrance called Cigar Rum from the house of Stranger's Perfumery, but when I had received the sample kit or the discovery kit from Stranger's Perfumery, and as soon as I put my nose on Cigar Rum, it reminded me of two fragrances. One of them being Jazz Club from the house of Maison Margiela, and the other one, Pavillon Rouge from the house of Jovoy. So I decided to take a closer look and study the fragrances and see how similar and different they are. They are definitely different when you smell them side by side. I have strips for each one, and I've been comparing, and I'm going to tell you all about these three fragrances. When you smell them from far, when you compare the fragrances not being side by side, it does remind you of one another, but when they are compared side by side, the similarities are quite different, whereas the idea is the same, but the smells are different. So if you want to find out about these three fragrances, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. That's right. We're going to compare Cigar Rum from the house of Stranger's Perfumery with Jazz Club from the house of Maison Margiela and Pavillon Rouge from the house of Jovoy. But if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you love watching fragrance reviews and still haven't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So this happens to me quite frequently. I smell a fragrance. For example, I was smelling the sample set from Stranger's Perfumery, and I took the discovery kit or samples kit to a coffee shop, and we were smelling them with a friend, and we all, we smelled them all, and as soon as I smelled Cigar Rum, it started reminding me of Jazz Club and of course Pavillon Rouge. Now I have a full review of Pavillon Rouge, and I also have a full review of Cigar Rum. I don't have a full review of Jazz Club, but I have mentioned it and spoken about it quite frequently in various videos. All three of the fragrances rely on tobacco and boozy notes, or most typically rum for these two fragrances, but Pavillon Rouge has rum and whiskey. See, even when I reviewed Pavillon Rouge dating back a couple of years, I thought immediately it reminded me of Jazz Club. But it actually happened more here when I smelled this. It reminded me of this first and then this one. So all three of the fragrances are utilizing similar notes in the same idea, similar ballpark. Similar ideas went into the creation of them, but the end results are different when you compare them side by side. But definitely this happens really frequently. When I smell something, it reminds me of others, but as soon as I get my nose on the others, then I see like there's differences. So we're going to talk about Jazz Club first. This is one of my least favorite fragrances from Maison Margiela. I've had a bottle for a while. It is a good fragrance, and there's a lot of fans with this one, but compared the collection with the other Maison Margiela fragrances, I feel like this is not as good as the others, but still I feel like it's a solid release. It's very, very easy to wear boozy tobacco fragrance. It has notes of rum, tobacco, vanilla, Styrax, pink pepper, Clary sage, Vetiver, Neroli, lemon. And it retails as a 100 ml bottle for $130. They have just done a price hike. They used to be $126 a bottle, now it's $130, and the concentration is eau de toilette. So this is not eau de parfum like the two other fragrances. In fact, the Cigar Rum, even though it's an eau de parfum, I feel like the Cigar Rum is acting more like an extrait, like a pure perfume. But what do we get with this one? What I get with this one, it does have the boozy nuances. The rum is pretty solid. It does have the tobacco nuances. It's pretty solid. And along with the vanilla and neroli and lemon and the Styrax, I get a very buttery experience. It's very creamy and soft, but nothing really jumps out. I feel like the notes are so mixed together. It's a boozy tobacco fragrance, but the notes just do not grab me. Like, they don't jump out. I feel like I'm getting equal amounts of every note in here to give you like a kind of like a perfume soup. It's not a bad thing. It's definitely working, as I believe this is one of the more popular fragrances from the house of Maison Margiela's Replica collection of fragrances, Jazz Club. But for me, there's no contrasting notes. Everything is just like equal amounts, and you get just like this soup of a fragrance where none of the notes stand out. I mean, yes, we experience boozy quality, we experience the tobacco, but that's pretty much all I'm experiencing. It's a very soft take on these notes, and generally I like my tobacco notes to jump out at me a little bit and kind of like grab me rather than being more, I'm not saying it's a background player, it's just kind of like neutral. Everything is just neutral with this one. But you might be a fan. Let me know. Are you a fan of Jazz Club? And have you thought about picking up bottle? I feel like it's a solid designer release, but it just doesn't do it for me as much as the other fragrances from the house of Maison Margiela. So that's Jazz Club. Next we're going to go to the Jovoy. This is Pavillon Rouge. I do have a full review of this one. I did a full review of this one with Saffron Bond, and we did a full bottle giveaway of this one. This one actually came out, was it before Remember Me? They have a fragrance called Remember Me, which is electronic. I think this one came out after. I'm drawing a blank right now. Jovoy's Pavillon Rouge is, I think that means red flag. That's what it translates to. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tobacco, leather, whiskey, rum, benzoin, vanilla, tea, ebony, sesame seeds, coffee, spices. Everything is thrown in there. Lots of different gourmand notes, boozy notes, tobacco. It's almost like a restaurant where you can consume all these kind of gourmandy notes and also smoke at the same time. You can have booze, you can smoke, you can eat food or dessert most likely in this case, and you experience all of that in one. Here, again, it's a smooth. All three of these fragrances are a smooth experience, but with this one I feel like the booziness kind of jumps out more at me, and then the tobacco finally bites me, like it grabs me because the tobacco is pretty strong. And then there's a unique sesame seed note along with the ebony. There's a smooth, almost like polished shininess with this one. Now I pick up some fruity undertones here, and that's why it reminds me of this one. And I didn't mention it here as well. There's fruity undertones in here as well, but that's why it reminds me of this one. But it's mostly really prominent here, whereas with these two, I get the fruitiness probably from the rum note, because sometimes when you drink rum, there's vanilla qualities and some fruity qualities in there. That's where it's coming from, because both of the fragrances do not mention the fruitiness. And again, it is fruity. You're getting those fruity undertones. It's definitely not in your face as this one is, because this one is pretty fruity. And if you haven't caught my review of this one, Cigar Rum, go check that out. But you know, there's something also sharp in here. It comes with kind of like bites. There's almost like a patchouli in here, which I'm not seeing it credited, but when I wear it, it dries down to a slightly patchouli-esque tobacco booze, whiskey and rum together. I get more whiskey, I think, from my experience. Sometimes rum takes over, but I'm getting more whiskey at times than rum. And so the experience is awesome. In fact, I really love this compared to this. I feel like it is a solid release, but again, when it's compared to the Jovoy releases of like something like Psychedelique, Private Label, Remember Me, and a few others, I feel like this one kind of falls behind. I can't remember if Dahlia ranked this one. I think we might have left this one off. I don't think she really liked this one. I can't remember though now. If you remember, please let me know. But you know, it's a solid release. It's a soft tobacco rum experience. Definitely better than Replica, the Maison Margiela Jazz Club from the Replica collection. And the price point is also different, but you do have Eau de Parfum here. It does last longer than the Jazz Club. I feel like Jazz Club is really it's not a fragrance that kind of like shouts out. It's, as I said, it's very neutral and flat to me. But here, with an extra $50, it's $180 for 100 ml EDP concentration, $130 Eau de Toilette, 100 ml. So you're getting a little better performance and a little more interesting things happening with the tobacco and boozy notes of rum and whiskey with this one. So this is my second favorite of the three, and now you know my most favorite. It's the Cigar Rum, but it's very, very close to the Jovoy. In fact, almost tied. And the Stranger's Perfumerie or Parfumerie Cigar Rum retails for $70 in a 30 ml bottle. So you do the math of how much this is. If you wanted to pick up a 100 ml bottle, it would be closer to $200 and some, so it is pricier. But I did say this one acts more like a pure perfume rather than an eau de parfum, which this is as well. But here are the different notes. But this one, you've got rum, dried fruits of prune and cherry, but I get lots of apricot with this one, along with the prune and the cherry. Prune is plum, of course. You've got raisins. Hey, you got some more fruity, dried fruity notes. You also have tobacco, of course, resins, oak, vetiver, amber, seaweed, mandarin orange. And as I mentioned, the seaweed note here, the seaweed gives it a salty touch to the fragrance. So in the end, you're left with something a little different, a little more unique than the two other ones that I spoke about. But again, there's times that I prefer this one because I like this like patchouli-esque dry down with this one, which this one doesn't have. And this one actually is also soft like the other two. It's a soft wearing experience. I feel like tobacco should be more sharp, and I don't get that here. And I think it's the combination of the booze or whatever booze note with rum in here, whiskey rum in the Jovoy, and rum in the Jazz Club. It gives it a very buttery, like almost buttery experience. So if you like that, you should try it. You should try all three. In fact, they sell samples of these and these, both of these, at Lucky Scent. I don't know if you can buy some samples of these, but there are some sample stores out there you can try. But in the end, as I said, I prefer the Cigar Rum the most. I also really like the bottle because it is a 30 ml, very compact bottle. You can transport everywhere. But you know, it's very close, if not a tie, with Pavillon Rouge. I feel like they have different unique twists. This one is not as fruity as this one, and even though there's no fruits notes listed, even with all three of them, I get fruity undertones. It's under there, like almost like some kind of dried fruits, maybe apricots, because it is a little tart. There's tartness here, but here I don't get a lot of tartness, as you recall in the review I did for Cigar Rum. Anyway, those are my thoughts on these three fragrances. I wanted to do this video ever since I shot the review for Cigar Rum, after realizing that these three fragrances smell so similar when they're not side by side. But when you bring them side by side, there are so many different nuances. The other thing that's really prominent in here as well are the resins. It's very resiny, and there is a slight smoky touch running through it. Very, very light smoke. And then that seaweed, as I said, adds a dusting of saltiness. Not overly salty and not overly aquatic, but just a little bit. Like, it just adds this like twist to the fragrance, which these two do not have. So in the end, number 3, number 2 of both of these. I'm going to just go ahead and say both of these are number 2. I like them equally, and sometimes I prefer this a little more, and sometimes I prefer this a little more, but more times I prefer this one. So I would actually say this is 2 and this is 1. Anyway, those are my thoughts for Maison Margiela Replica's Jazz Club, Pavillon Rouge from Jovoy, and of course Cigar Rum from Stranger's Parfumerie. What are your thoughts? Have you compared these three fragrances? Do you like the combination of a boozy notes like rum or whiskey with tobacco? And have you ever compared them? I mean, do you see the similarities and the differences? Please let me know if you've done this. And also let me know if you have any of these fragrances. I want to find out, because I'd like to really find out if you get to compare the three. You'll see that they're different, but I'm just wondering if you smell them outside of being next to each other, if you got the same similarities. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments, please list below. Otherwise, please like this video, please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.